Abraham believed before he was circumcised. And he was counted righteous before he was circumcised. Abraham believed before he was circumcised, and he had to, right? He really had to believe. Because circumcision is not a commitment or a decision that a grown man makes on a whim. He's really got to believe if he's going to take that step of commitment. The Bible tells us here in verse 11 that circumcision was a sign of the commitment that he had already made. It was a sign of the faith that he already had. Being Jewish, being circumcised, that didn't earn him righteous standing with God. His faith did. And what we need to get a hold of here is that there is no modification to our image, to our body, to our lifestyle that we can make that will earn our passage into heaven or relationship with God. No matter how extreme, no matter how strange, no matter how different from the culture. That was a pretty major step that Abraham took in Genesis 17, but that didn't make him righteous. And you can make some pretty major steps of religious devotion, and that will not make you righteous. I've read of men in tribal areas that the way that they have to prove their commitment to God is to crawl on their hands and knees from one village to the next, miles on stony pathways on their hands and knees. They get there and their hands are all bloodied and their knees are shot, and they made some incredible demonstration of commitment, but they're not righteous because that doesn't make us righteous. I saw a picture of a man years ago that he felt in a religious service, he felt moved to raise his hand. Maybe you've seen that before. But what was different about this guy is he made the commitment to God, I'm never going to put it down. And he kept his hand up for the rest of his life. You know what happened to his hand? Because it was constantly up in that fixed position, it withered. So now he's not everywhere he goes, he's got his hand up, but it's deformed and withered. It can't be used for anything. That was an incredible commitment of devotion, but it didn't make him righteous. And we can make some pretty incredible commitments of devotion, but that won't make us right with the Lord. Man, my arm was getting tired just doing it that long. We've got to realize that we can't weird our way into heaven. We can't be strange enough to have a relationship with God. It doesn't work that way. We can't categorize ourselves or label ourselves into heaven. Paul said to the Corinthians that the preaching of the cross is foolishness. 2 verses later, he said that preaching is foolishness. Yeah, what we do here on Sunday mornings is probably strange to a lot of people. There are a lot of people that they slept in this morning and the only thing on their mind is watching basketball this afternoon, and they don't understand why you came to worship service. But this isn't what makes us righteous. This isn't what saves us. Just because it's different from the world, that doesn't make us righteous. And it doesn't matter how extreme we are, whether it's we say, I'm not going to drive a car, I'm going to drive a horse and buggy all my life, or I'm not going to buy clothes from the store, or I'm not going to do this, or that won't make us righteous. No matter how strange, no matter how devoted, no matter how weird, no matter how eccentric, it will not make us righteous. What makes us righteous is not that we're different from the world. What makes us righteous is God's goodness and His grace. And then, because of the power of His grace, and because of the power of His goodness, we can't help but live differently.